Let's take a look at action research. Research rarely yields clear conclusions regarding diversity and inclusion initiatives. In an organization, many internal and environmental factors cannot be controlled as they might be in a laboratory. Changes in people, technology, and the economy illustrate the many things that can affect change effort. Judgments about causality are always tentative, especially for large-scale systemic changes in organizations. Action research framework is a useful tool for implementing and evaluating programs, including those that advance diversity and inclusion. Action research, usually attributed to Kurt Lewin, is a three-stage, repeating cycle of data collection and diagnosis, planning and implementation, and a collection of new data and evaluation. Results are used for another cycle of further planning, redesign, and evaluation through collection of new data. Lewin described 3 steps of unfreezing, change, and refreezing as a framework for changing an organization. Unfreezing occurs when something disrupts the ongoing equilibrium, such as significant events or recognition of a problem through a routine survey. With things more fluid, change procedures or understandings can be implemented. To have lasting effects, refreezing must occur, without which things will tend to revert to their original status. A first step in identifying why organizational change is desirable or necessary is an important one. Answering this question requires careful analysis of present and desired future states, both externally and internally. This analysis should suggest how and which differences can be leveraged to improve an organization. Often internal and external examination requires analysis of newly collected data to set diversity and inclusion goals comparable with the employer's business strategy, just as needs assessment helps to set the goals for training. The term culture audit refers to data collection to provide a current picture of individual, group, and organizational factors relevant to diversity and inclusion. Diversity climate, or DC, is a shared employee perception of the degree to which policies, procedures, and structures indicate a priority on diversity and inclusion through fair practices, social integration across differences, and so on. A different concept, not to be confused with DC, is that of attitude towards diversity. In measuring climate, one assesses shared perceptions of how diversity is valued in an organization as expressed in norms, systems, structures, and procedures. Measures of DC give clues about whether the organization should examine and perhaps change its procedures, and might also show that employees do not know about policies and procedures actually in place. In surveys, anonymity and confidentiality are critical for respondents to feel able to answer honestly. For this reason, an objective third-party individual or organization might be engaged to conduct a survey and compile results. Other information may come from focus groups or interviews with key informants in critical jobs. When a decision has been made to implement diversity and inclusion change, how can it be done? There are a variety of OD techniques often used to bring about planned organizational change. One of the earliest and most widely used OD techniques, SF, starts with an organization-wide survey and factors affecting productivity and satisfaction. This is survey feedback. Survey feedback can be powerful because it's data-based, directly and widely involves people in the organization, suggests what to change, and identifies priorities, and aims change efforts at organizations rather than individuals. This procedure focuses on process within a group, team, or a larger unit, often during meetings or other work sessions. In practice, most examples of process consultation, or PC, focus on observable processes in interpersonal and small group interaction. In team building, a facilitator addresses how a group or team functions with respect to its specific task or function in the organization. This technique focuses primarily on a work unit and on relationships and processes related to these tasks. In organizational issues, including strained relationships between and among interdependent units, a technique like team building might be appropriate. Although they do not share the philosophical foundations of OD, these techniques may be helpful in terms of an OD program focused on diversity and inclusion. The diversity professional should carefully consider whether they have the requisite knowledge, skills, and expertise to undertake any of these change techniques, or if a facilitator from the outside would be more appropriate. Another important aspect of organizational change is the structural location and responsibility of diversity and inclusion. Starting a program to advance diversity and inclusion can be called organizational development. In a startup or new organization, diversity and inclusion work can be built into structure and processes from the beginning. Programs should be selected based on the issues identified in a strategic plan or other efforts to define data-based goals. As with individuals, reaching organizational diversity competence is a process of awareness, understanding, and action. Effective diversity training, mentoring, and other learning programs can increase the likelihood of success. Another important factor is infrastructure and alignment among various parts and processes of the organization. Misalignment often limits the success of efforts to improve because different programs contradict one another. Routine monitoring of hiring, placement, and promotion practices is important for overall business success as well as the diversity and inclusion effort. Also needed is an overall assessment of alignment among systems for appraisal and reward, compensation, training, development, as well as general HR policies and procedures and benefits. Organizations vary in history and culture, employee characteristics, external environment, competitive challenges, relevant expertise, and many other ways that can affect the success or failure of these programs. Diversity professionals rely on expertise and consensus to devise a plan that's likely to be successful.